Okay, gang, now we're going to get into what I call the sales tax morass. And that is, how do you keep track of all this stuff? The Wayfair decision that came down coming up on 2.5 years ago, as everybody knows, has changed the rules of the game. It's no longer physical nexus. Each state now gets to decide what constitutes what's being referred to as economic nexus. And of course, every state, county, city, parish, almost down to dog catcher taxation district is interested in getting more tax revenue in the door. And they all have different definitions of what is an economic nexus. So an economic nexus, you may have nexus somewhere and not even know it. They can come knock on your door and go back several years, and you may not have charged sales tax on that sale, but now you're going to pay the sales tax on that sale. And they define those nexus most typically based on sales dollars and on number of transactions. Now, many states will set a limit like has to be $100,000 or 1,000 transactions. And that will keep the very small mom and pop shops from hitting the limits of having to file taxes in those states. But if you can see on the screen here, beware of Kansas. Okay? The economic nexus limit on Kansas is 1. That's $1 or it's 1 transaction. So Kansas is the classic example. 1 sale into Kansas, you owe Kansas money. So keeping track of economic nexus, states are always changing their limits, is a huge hassle. Next big hassle is item taxability. And we're going to jump in and talk about how we solve all of these. But is an item taxable? Well, some items are taxable in pretty much all states. Some items are taxable in some, but not others. The classic example is a Twinkie. Is a Twinkie taxable? Well, some states do not put sales tax on food. And then the question becomes, is Twinkie food or is Twinkie candy? Depends upon the state. The last issue that gets into taxability issues is origin versus destination. And that's where is the sales tax rate determined by where you ship from or where you ship to. And especially when you have to ship to, okay? If you're shipping to a destination state, it's not just a matter of, oh, I need the sales tax rate for that state. It's this customer is in a different place than another customer, and they have different sales tax rates, which have to be reported. So super fast, because the big challenge for all of us presenters today was fit all of our stuff into 15-minute sessions. What does not work? What does not work is zip codes. Once upon a time, people would try and fake their way through sales tax rates by zip code. It was popular, but the complexity now is just incredible. And the taxing bodies, because people were using the fancy term population-based centroids to determine what is the most likely sales tax rate within a zip code, well, it didn't take long for the smaller taxing bodies to figure out, hey, we might not be the biggest, but we're here, and we can't get 0. So there's been even legal actions amongst, cities and counties against states and all the apportionment methods. So the other reason is zip codes, they cross cities, they cross counties. There's some zip codes even cross state boundaries. So zip codes just flat does not work now. And you'll get great pushback if you try and go that route from the states that you're remitting to. AccountMate does have built-in tax code functionality, okay, where you can build a tax code based upon 3 levels of tax jurisdiction. The problem is it would take you almost 100,000 tax codes to cover all of the applicable jurisdictions out there and how they get layered on each other. The next problem is that AccountMate only handles 3 levels. Typically, that was set up as state, county, city. But now we have overlapping areas, and some places they literally go as many as 7 layers deep. Finally, there's the issue of if you're doing this yourself, it's keeping up on all the changes. And it's knowing, when am I meeting Nexus? Hey, this county just changed their rate. Hey, this city just changed their rate. Hey, there's now a brand new taxing body out there. So, with all that complexity, this is the perfect opportunity to put stuff out to the cloud and utilize intelligence outside your organization and personnel outside your office. So what we do is, and I want to show some screenshots on this. Number one, we validate your ship-to addresses with USPS to get rooftop accuracy. So we know the exact location. You might think that I'm sitting at 28 West North Street in Danville, Illinois. Not true. I'm at 28W North ST. And as you've been to websites and they've come back with your address and said, do you mean the following address? And you get to confirm. That is exactly what we do right here. Without that address validation, you will never be accurate. We enforce that on customer addresses, bill to addresses. We don't have to on ship to addresses, but it's a good idea. Of course, I'll show you how we can define customers as tax exempt and with expiry dates. TaxJar has their item classifications. And just as I discussed a second ago, there's food, there's candy, there's myriads other of taxable groups. As of yesterday, there were 669 different possible item tax classifications at TaxJar. Now, they have great examples and descriptions, and they also have a literal AI tool that will walk you through figuring out which one of the classifications does your item fall into. Now, that's a lot of classification categories, and you might be scared that, oh man, we got to go through all that. Most businesses, nobody in the NextLand client base is running a Walmart store. You're typically doing a subset of items, a subset of services, and there will be a handful of those item classifications. So, as I'll show on some screens here, sales tax rate during multiple transactions, we call out to TaxJar. We know where the order is going to be delivered to. We know what by item classification it is, and they come back with the sales tax rate. And then that sales tax rate is what is used on your AccountMate transaction. We check that during sales order entry. If you edit the sales order, we check it again because technically the sales tax rate could have changed. Okay? We check it again when you ship the sales order. Technically, the rate could have changed. And according to the letter of the law, not your tax attorney talking, according to the letter of the law, the customer would then be responsible for that then current at time of shipment tax rate. And here we have all the transactions that we have in the can for making sure customers are getting the right sales tax rate charged. Finally, we upload that data to TaxJar. We will often lag by a day. And what that means is, today is Thursday, you may want to review the stuff, and we will typically upload the Thursday customer invoices and customer RMAs, sales returns. We'll upload all of that on Friday night to give you an opportunity that, some order shipped late in the day on Thursday. We want some human eyeballs to take a look at this. And we can set that to weekly or monthly or whatever. But especially starting out, we want you guys to get comfortable and make sure stuff is being, processed the way you want it. TaxJar also monitors impending nexus. Okay, if you're starting to get near the limit of we need to register for Missouri, it will let you know, hey, get that in motion. So what does it look like? To keep things brief, I went with just slides here. Okay, here's entering a customer, and this ought to look pretty familiar. 28 West North Street as returned. You have the option to ignore it. Might make things complicated later, but it is getting the proper USPS sorted address. We can bring this back as uppercase, proper case. We have some options there. It comes back with the complete +4 zip code. So it brings that back for us. We have options here also. I'll mention TaxJar now handles Canada. There are situations where you may be required, and I'm not going to get into VAT taxes and GST and PST, but you may be required to charge sales tax in Canada. If so, got you covered. TaxJar handles it, Nex Tax handles it, and it works. Okay? We can set somebody as tax exempt, say that we have a tax certificate on file, and here's the expiry date for that. And then you'll know to go back and get them. If there is some reason that you say, I do not want to use TaxJar for this customer, we can do that as well. So we do have an absolute override. Here's an example of the inventory maintenance screen, bottom left of the settings 1 tab. And here's tax category. And so now, of course, this is a validated field. And actually, if you hover over the word tax category, it gives a big, long paragraph and a half description, which will say a lot more than general services. So there's this amount of configuration. And on this, to go back one, part of us spinning up Nex Tax is we go through and we do a bulk update of your addresses. And anything that is not a very close match, we let you know in a spreadsheet. Okay? We typically go through and do a bulk update of the item categories for you. We chat with you on how this stuff fits. Finally, here's what things look like in TaxJar, in the website. And so here's an example showing gross sales in the state of Ohio, and it breaks it down by county and by location. You can drill down and see everything. I'll get to the important part because I'm coming up on my end of my time. Here's what this is priced at, okay? USPS address validation is actually, their service is free, okay? You pay taxes. So we're able to call their API, no cost to you, okay? TaxJar, you need TaxJar Professional because it has the API interface. That is $99 a month, and then $25 per sales tax filing. Some states you may file monthly, some states you may file quarterly. You can set stuff up to auto-file, and they used to limit this by transactions, but now they really don't. Our Nex Tax is $250 per month. It is, if you're running AccountMate SQL version 10.4 and up, and you have an unmodified system, plug and play. Call us up. We got to do the configuration, but it's there, it's done, it works. Okay? It is possible to port to prior versions. Okay, now you're paying next land time and effort on that. If you have current customizations in your system, yes, we then need to either put the Nex Tax into your system or put your modifications back into a Nex Tax baseline.